Hey guys, Carlos Cortez here with another episode of Scriptures and Wall Street. Today is going to be a little different setup. I'm here in Orlando in my condos, but as promised 4 years ago, I won't miss a podcast. I will get information out to you because A, I love doing it, and B, I want you to be informed uh, with all types of views, so that you can formulate your own opinion. Just let me say my disclosure here. Everything on this podcast is meant for information and education purposes only. Even though I am a financial advisor, this podcast is not investment advice. If you would like investment advice, give us a call, 813-448-3446, or you can simply visit cortezwm.com. If you would like to download a free guide on the color of your money and what that means or our process, you can go to americafirstretirementplan.com and download a free guide. It doesn't cost you anything. We don't sell your information. We don't do any of that Chinese stuff that you get inundated with. We don't sell your information to the you know who's. But what we will do is if you do contact us, we will guide you through a successful retirement. And we're going to give you plenty of options. I'm not the fit for everybody, nor do I want to be, because we are a cross first, America second type of firm. We're faith based, and we always want to do our work as according what the scriptures say. And I'm actually excited about today's podcast. We're going to talk about something that is pretty controversial right now in Washington. That's a lot of misinformation. And you guys know that I don't care about the opinions of others. I don't care what anyone says. What I like to look at is the charts. So we got a lot of influencers talking about investments, money, gold, and what is really, really happening. However, they are not even pulling up charts. They're not even speaking with financial professionals. They're just doing it for clout and reviews and actually not speaking in truth and actually misleading information. So today we're going to be talking about the CBDCs. We're going to be talking about the Genius Bill. We're going to be talking about the Clarity Bill. More importantly, what this market structure bill is doing. There's about 3 new bills that we spoke about on the last podcast. But today I have a very good friend of mine, Terry. I've been doing business with him. Oh man, so long right now. And we're going to bring on Terry here shortly. And Terry, hey, how are you doing, my friend?
Good to see you, Carlos.
Good to see you, brother. Hey, thanks for giving up some of your time today. This is probably going to be I don't know, a 30-minute podcast. And I just want to say thanks for donating your time and speaking on some of just a market update in general and kind of on a legislative side, what we're seeing and what people need to be on the lookout for. Because look, at the end of all of this, it all leads to track, trace, and control.
Hmm.
We've seen that in academia. We've seen it in the medical field. God knows we've seen it in the financial field. They have an obsession with track, trace, and control, and it's Satan's ultimate agenda. He
Yeah.
wants us to be controlled by everything. And so, as we speak into this, I always tell clients, and I know you say the same thing. Name one gold dealer that actually works coherently with a financial advisor. Let me know, and I'll give you $5.
Well, I think that's why we get along is, I held 5 financial licenses. I know exactly where you're coming from. It's so nice talking to you because we're both tracking with the intellect of a financial advisor. And we know I just happen to be in the commodity side and tangible, and you happen to be in the contract law and what you do. But I think we get along real well because we both understand the dynamics. We're not just some YouTuber that's out there with an opinion. We actually have education to back it up.
Yeah, that's why I love speaking with you, Terry. It's you bring the experience, and you actually know the technical and fundamental analysis on pretty much everything that you speak of. So, I guess my first question, and it's for me personally as well as others, is what is some of the concerns that you see right now with precious metals, and why is it constantly going up? I always say it's red money. For our clients, we understand that red money is a bucket of money that has unlimited losses, unlimited gains. It can be speculative, it can have high fees. There's really no guarantees on the red money side. However, there are good red money investments. And I'm not saying that clients should not invest in red money. All I'm saying is they need to adapt a liquidity and a ratio that fits their need. And we call this in-house our covenant process, a little bit of precious metals, a little bit of contract law, and a little bit of managed money, however that looks like for our clients. But I guess my first question for you, Terry, and I know we're on a time strain here. What is it that you feel that the masses need to know on why precious metals is such a hot item and a stable item for you?
Yeah, the precious metals are not going up. It's really the dollar that's going down, and that's kind of the issue here. Many are not aware, and this is not, a conspiracy angle. I mean, this is happening. They're not going to tell you. If you think you have the information, it's already old news. What's behind the scenes being built up right now is extremely legit. I mean, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, has already made it clear. Dr. Judy Shelton has spoke of it. The dollar is in demise, and this is imminent. Now, there's a big difference between the U.S. dollar and the U.S. Treasury market, and this is where a lot of people are going to miss it. But the dollar is in trouble by design. I truly believe they're going to let the dollar go, and I'll explain that because fiat currencies in general are going away. That's where the Genius Act came in. That's why, hence, the stable coins are being talked about. The reason central banks are accumulating gold at massive levels, they don't really want retail people to be aware of it. But the bottom line is the dollar was too strong. So if you look back in history, let's go like 1934, they devalued the dollar 40% by changing a $20 gold piece to a 50. Overnight, you lost 40% of your buying power. That worked for a while. And then in 1980, they created the Plaza Accord, which devalued the dollar. They got with our allies, devalued the dollar again by 40% or so. And that lasted a while. They did it on purpose, so it gave America the ability to export and be able to do business in the world. Well, right now, the dollar is too strong again. Even though it has been coming down, it's not good enough. So one of the Treasury secretaries for Donald Trump wrote the paper before he became president. It's called the Mar-a-Lago Accord. In the Mar-a-Lago Accord, Trump's plan, and you're seeing it in his media, what he says, Trump's plan is to bring the dollar down 30-40%. He says, I'm not letting the dollar slide, but it's not an uncontrolled situation. It'll be controlled. He is going to bring the dollar value down 30-40% and put pressure on interest rates. That's why you see him putting pressure on Powell for interest rates. Bringing the dollar down 30-40% and then lowering interest rates is the Mar-a-Lago Accord. It's the what Trump plan wants to do because he knows the dollar day is over. The petrodollar is over. The world is now moving to new settlement. China is moving into new settlement arrangements with a lot of not just the BRIC countries, but a lot of trading nations that really overpopulate the West. And it's a big deal. Now, they don't want to take over reserve currency, but they are definitely looking to do a shared, you could say, settlement currency in the world. And the yuan is doing it, but they're backing it with gold. And so this is becoming a big deal behind the scenes. The Mar-a-Lago Accord is Trump's plan. That's why you hear him talk about lowered interest rates. That dollar is coming down 30-40% if he gets his way. Both of those, of course, are perfect storms for precious metals. Why you're going to continue to see them rise. But there's a bigger part to this. And I know we can get a little deeper if you want to, but I think the one part that's very interesting, well, there's two of them. One of them is the stable coin. So when we go that route, we'll go into it. But they're getting ready. They've talked about it. Dr. Judy Shelton has mentioned it. She's out there saying it. Scott Bessent just came out and said, we need an overhaul of the financial system. We need an overhaul of the Federal Reserve. These are all code words, but there's a real strong possibility they're coming out in 2016 by July 4th, and they're going to introduce a 50-year treasury backed by gold. Now, at that point, they're going to revalue gold. So right now, it's on the books. I think it's like $35. He keeps saying, oh, we're not revaluing gold because he can't tell you right now. But that's why the prices are going higher. The powers to be know, the United States, if you look at how much gold has been imported into the United States since Trump came in, they tried to blame it on tariffs. That was the front. They just don't want people to know that they should be owning gold and silver to a degree, because they're going to revalue gold. Every $4,000 in gold value brings $1 trillion to the U.S. Treasury. So there's been a lot of ticker about gold could easily see $20,000 an ounce because of the amount of trillions it brings into the Treasury. And if they do the gold back bond and U.S. Treasury note, the 50-year, they'll do a face value. And what happens after 50 years, you get the face value of gold. So those are just a few of the stories. That doesn't even come into the Shanghai Exchange and the new settlement currency that's being built in the East. But that's the main reason why institutions, anyway, sovereign wealth, our government is even accumulating tremendous gold behind the scenes using, like a pseudo banks and sovereign. They don't want anyone knowing it's being done until they open up the door. When they do, you will see those prices continue to rise. And it's not a big deal, because it's part of the great reset into our new financial system that gets into why the Genius Act was developed, stable coins, and then that gets into a whole nother conversation.
Oh, it absolutely coincides with the whole messaging, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
saw the wording, and so a lot of the problems that people don't understand, Terry, and as you know, when you open up a checking account and you sign those 9 pages of disclosure, you basically forfeit your right to the bank, and you
Yes.
only become a beneficiary for withdrawal purposes only. And when there's a liquidity crisis, like in COVID, or even in the Great Recession known as 2008 and 2009. People forget 2009 was worse than 2008. Um, that's where these terms actually come to light, when you can't take out more than $5,000 out of your checking account to give to somebody or whatever. And so when we see this Fed Now program that was established during the Biden administration, uh, it has the same verbiage as the COVID-19 jab, safe and
Mm-hmm.
effective. And you have Janet Yellen coming out and saying, "Oh, this is going to be a great thing. It'll be safe and effective." Like, all these words are semantics of the track, trace, and control agenda that we all speak of and know of that it's coming.
Yeah.
So how do we? I mean, I have some ways on the red money side. My clients or my listeners, they understand that I'm a big short guy. Like, I love shorting the market, and I love calling it when the markets are short, and finding ways where the blue collar guy, the hardworking American, can actually make money off of a recession instead of getting stolen from. Because most recessions in the stock market, what happens is, Terry, as you know, there's a buyer and a seller. Someone's always losing, and typically it's the banks that rob the blue collar guy, the
Yeah.
hardworking American that is sitting duck in their 401k with mutual funds, and they're basically using derivatives to psychologically trap them for from actually doing anything. And the plan administration words, the actual words, are actually pinpointing them to a point where they can't even get in and out of these mutual funds. They can't get it out of their banks. It's all this contract that is to their detriment.
Mhm.
So as we see these bills passed, I believe this is the biggest fear of them all, is that they don't even understand the lingo behind these bills. They don't understand that, hey, when you hold Bitcoin and you have it in Coinbase, that is an exchange. They have the same rules as your FDIC scam bank account. You don't own the asset.
Yeah.
Coinbase can take your money in exchange if you don't put it in a cold wallet. And
Yeah. You're
it's
an unsecured creditor by definition. Yeah,
100%.
legally, you're an unsecured creditor. I mean, the commercial code 5 and 6 has been changed over the last 20 years. All 50 states are on board. And in commercial code 5 and 6, they made it really clear that all assets in the banking system, and even just in brokerages like that, even Coinbase for that matter, number one, you're an unsecured creditor. You don't own it. They just have an obligation to pay you back. But two, in the 2008 law, Dodd-Frank law, the bail-ins become very real. They absolutely 100% can take your stuff in the bail-in provision. It's in commercial code 5 and 6. They can take it. That's why what we're doing here with tangible assets, and what you do with contract law is so important, because they need to be diversified, because we're assuming that's not going to happen. But if you look at what's going on around the world and what China's doing to create new settlement currency, and yet our M2 supply is through the roof. If those currencies US dollars start coming back, we're talking hyperinflation. And they know this. I think it really is an orchestrated plan to honestly bring the dollar down. But people are an extreme risk. I talk to them all the time where there's 400,000 sitting in a bank account, a savings account. I'm like, you have no idea. Number one, you've lost in the last 4 years 27% to inflation just sitting in the currency. But two, you're under the Dodd-Frank rule of bail-ins, and you're just taking a chance it doesn't go away. And you better be diversified, because if you're not, you're just taking a chance that nothing bad is going to happen.
I love that. I love that. And that's why you and I work very extremely well, is because I really feel for the betterment of our listeners. And let's just face it, they're going to be God-fearing patriots. They're people like us, Terry, and we just want to help them. Look, you and I both can make millions of dollars at any time. However, what we want to do, we actually get paid more so being an impact on someone's retirement, being an impact to
Yeah.
someone, because that's what God has really called us to be, is to be salt and light on this evil street called Wall Street. It is David and Goliath, and look, it doesn't mean that we take everything and we put it in gold and silver. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that we take everything we put in contract law or manage money. We just need balance, and we don't need to
Need
buy
balance.
we don't need to buy anything over fear or uncertainty and doubt. We need to buy because we're confident. We see the charts. We understand the qualitative and quantitative analysis, which I kind of want to break down here in a second, why I think gold is still going to go up. I just wanted to bring an expert in to talk about the fundamental stuff that's happening in the background with all this garbage that we see on mainstream media.
Yeah,
It's
because it's the settlement currency, Carlos. It's China. Ever since we lost the petrodollar, China was making moves. Now it was BRICS. Now it hasn't quite played out exactly because the BIS really stuck it to them.
Yep.
But they're still doing it. And so what they're doing is they're not looking to take over the reserve currency. They're looking to develop a new settlement currency system. And it is going to be stablecoin, CBDC coin backed. It settles in seconds instead of days. The fees, the saving on the fees are tremendous. But that process of moving into the Shanghai exchange is legit, but they are literally backed up by the physical asset. China and those in the East are taking and demanding the physical gold and silver out of the Western vaults. That's why the U.S. is sitting on, I think, the shortest supply of silver they've had in my whole entire lifetime. It's just a shift because we're in this financial reset, a massive fourth turning overhaul of the financial system. Many are just unaware. They haven't been through a Great Depression. They don't understand, like you say, how they literally control the money, the banking, the brokerages, where you're at, like even in Coinbase as an unsecured creditor. It's all about the war. Believe it or not, this new stable coin coming out, Carlos, the Genius Act, it's a digital dollar, but what many don't understand, it's a repeat of 1863. That stable coin is a war bond. They're just not telling you because they can't mention war bond. It'll panic people. We are getting ready to go into a financial war. China and the East are putting pressure on the settlements where they no longer use US dollars to settle trade. That's a big deal considering we have a huge M2 money float. And so that is really more about the bigger picture of a great reset that's in play right now. And it's just a function of money. I mean, gold is really just something they're using to back up the stable coins. And as I think they're going to use to back up the new treasuries they issue, because then they can allow gold to appreciate to certain levels to offset the debt. And in that process of doing that, this is where it kind of goes for both of us. In the process of doing it, gold and silver will substantially rise, but that's not the point. If he pulls this off and wins this financial war we're walking into, which we are, it's in play now. They
Sure.
just don't want to call it a war. It's not kinetic. If we don't win, we're out. If we do, it literally will be a golden era in America. We get that dollar dropping 30, 40%. We get these rates back down. Inflationary, sure. But the amount of economic boom and opportunity for every single one of us is absolutely in play. But we've got to win this war. We've got to control the digital realm so the dollar is backing up the stable coins that people are transacting and trade. And it's all being used around the commodity section because commodities are cheap right now, but commodities have to back up the stable coin.
Yeah.
So all base metals, it's not just gold and silver. I mean, copper is going to be huge. It's just, this is just a time and season, and I call it fourth turning. I guess I just wish Carlos in the kingdom, too many are just buried in the sand. Their discernment levels are very low and they don't see the big picture that's playing out. And it's not just me saying it. Some of the top minds, I mean, top minds, Martin Armstrong, and I don't even know if he's Christian, just some of the top minds out there will all outline this stuff. They're telling us what's happening. But we in the kingdom are not paying attention. But if we do, we can explode the opportunity of our retirement to not only be in a better place, but we can give it a little better guarantee it's not going to be taken.
Man, I love it. I love it. I want to show this chart real quick, and you can keep talking if you like, but I'm gonna say one or two things here. It's I'm a chart guy. My listeners know that I'm always I don't I mean, yeah, we have our bias, but I always like to look at the charts and make sure, you know, everything is in alignment. And if it's God's will and if it's perfect, it always shows on the charts exactly what we're discerning. So it's pretty amazing how these things work. And sorry, folks, I am on my laptop. I am not in my studio, so I feel like a rookie trying to
Well, while
podcast.
you're working on those charts, oh, you got it. Good. Okay.
Yeah. So here we go. We have this is silver right now, Terry. This is
Hmm.
actual silver, and if you can see now, this is on a weekly chart. Let me talk about how powerful this is. This is a daily chart. A daily chart is extremely difficult to move in itself. Now, on the bottom, we'll see these traffic lights. These three traffic lights. The first one's going to be short-term momentum. The middle is going to be like a midterm momentum, and the last final traffic light on the bottom is going to be our long-term traffic light. And what this actually entails, Terry, is that, and all of our listeners, is that our MACD analysis, this is like on steroids. It basically uses AI. It uses Fibonacci retracements. It uses all these things day traders and institutional traders know of what is to come. And it literally predicts what it can do in the future based on historical behaviors, using all types of patterns that day traders and swing traders use. So it's very, very accurate. Now, I can't say it's a guarantee because it's obviously it's securities and commodities. There's nothing ever guaranteed. However, it can basically give us an indication of where it's going. And on a daily in itself, it's all green.
Hmm.
On a weekly in itself, it is all green. On top of that, I have a bullish power indicator, which takes a lot to turn that thing green. Uh,
Especially with silver, because the manipulation has been ferocious, but
yes.
they've lost control, Carlos. The East is demanding actual delivery. And so there's actually a scramble for it. And the powers to be behind the scenes know it. And that's why you're seeing those bullish indicators.
And what's interesting, if we go back to, and I don't want to get too messy, but if we go back to 2020, let's see here. Look how it went up in 2020 on the bottom left here. We had a little dip off here before, I'm sorry. We had a dip here and right after 2020 when market was going up, and then it just skyrocketed from $13 all the way up to 27, and it has been in the 20s ever since.
Yeah.
and over. And now today we are at, what is it, 30, about $39, almost $40 right now. So
Yeah, we're
it's
just under $40. It's almost up from back then. It's almost up, gosh, 170%. But you know the funny thing, Charles, that's nothing. I mean, they're breaking the derivative market. It's all about the physical, and it's a true commodity that's needed in everything. So silver, it is not going to be unheard of to see silver 150 to 300. It's just not. I mean, that to me is no big deal. I mean, gold could easily, triple from here. And if they do pull off the gold back bond, it could go up, maybe 300%. But it's just merely a function of the reset that we're walking into. Whereas we're battling, going into this war of who's going to control settlement currency when the US dollar used to be total settlement currency control. Swift was it. You got out of Swift, we'd blackmail you or shut you down. And now they have alternatives. And that's why the Genius Act had to be put in place, because they need to get the US dollar stablecoin out into the realm to become the trade mechanism. Things like XRP, probably XLM, HBAR, when they start tokenizing. Even Larry Fink of BlackRock said once they pass the laws, they're going to tokenize every stock and every bond. They'll go on blockchains. And so once they start doing that, the US dollar can remain as settlement on the digital side. And right now, it's not a CBDC because a stable coin is a free currency, I suppose you could say. But if you get into a Democrat hands, they could easily change. Without a law, Biden was making it a CBDC, meaning a communist controlled, totalitarian controlled money system. He even had a lady going for the currency comptrollers, put her up. She was a graduate from Leningrad. She wanted to literally put a law in on all banks to report directly to the IRS everything over $600. Thank God they squashed that for now, but that's what a CBDC would do. But we must put that into law. Otherwise, stable coins are free. We'll have cash. We'll have stablecoin digital dollar. Keep ourselves in the forefront. But right now, we are walking into literally war. And it's not going to go probably to a level of depegging. If China and these other countries started depegging from the dollar and they started their own matrix, that's actually war. That's an act of war. But it's not unreasonable. If there's a depeg, this whole thing's blowing up. So Trump knows it. He needs to get us out there, because right now the fiat US dollar is done. What we need to do is back, and what Trump's plan is to use the US Treasury market backed by gold to give the confidence, and then use the Treasury market then to give confidence to people so we can start lending. Because right now the Federal Reserve, as well as the Treasury, they're buying the bonds back. Talk about monetization. I mean, the Federal Reserve had to buy $48 billion in bonds just a week or two ago because nobody's buying them. So we must make radical changes to the whole global financial system, because we are no longer in control like people think. And that's what we're seeing play out in front of us, is why this is such an exciting time to be alive if we're in the right place.
Yeah, I love what you said, because as you're speaking, I'm actually looking. I did a podcast this the other day. It's interesting because there's so many countries that hold our bonds. Number one being Japan,
Right. Well,
and
they sold 200 billion in bonds not too long ago to buy gold. So
correct.
even our own allies are dumping them. But we know what they were talking about, Carlos, is doing, if they do the 50-year treasury backed by gold, they would still issue short-term bonds that are just paid off on a certain interest. And so they're looking to do both of them. And this is coming out of the mouth of, Dr. Judy Shelton and Scott Bessent and others. So it's there behind the scenes, but they don't want the public to know yet, because they're still accumulating as much of the asset as they can get.
Yep, I'm gonna share this real quick from the Federal Reserve's website. Actually, let's see here. Share screens. Sorry,
And
guys.
we are blessed to have Scott Bessent and others in the cabinet right now. I'm telling you, they are here to save America. There's no doubt about that.
So if you read this, guys, basically what Terry is saying is not what Terry is saying is not hype. Or not for clout. It actually is backed up.
Hmm.
I'm literally on the Fed's website right now,
Are they
and
showing you right there? They'll show you like 48% of our assets is student loans. And then
yep,
the other asset we have, second category asset we have is actually land. But what can you do? Stick a hotel on the land? The
right.
only other asset that the government really has to back up is gold. But they're going to have to revalue it. But they're not going to tell anybody about revaluing gold from 35 on the books to current value of 34, and then, of course, higher until they've accumulated as much as possible. And so, yes, you'll see on the chart on their assets, that's they know. And I tell you a little secret. I met this young guy at a family gathering picnic, and he was working for a drilling company, and they're pulling core samples on public lands. The BLM is scrambling all over the country looking for core samples to try to find gold veins. So it's very, I thought he didn't no idea what he was saying, but they know that that is the one asset they can revalue. And like I said, every $4,000 value of gold is $1 trillion in revalue and money to the treasury on the books. So
Correct.
they could really put a lot of money into the treasury, which then they could use that to leverage. And it's just a function of the reset. It's nothing more than that. It's not like doomsday, but we better win this new financial war that's coming with China and others, or we will be in trouble.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you scroll on this website, on the Fed's website, basically it says the Federal Reserve has 4.6 billion dollars in domestic treasuries, as well as mutual funds, and it goes into depository institutions. And if you scroll down, it basically says the notes are shrinking. However, we have Japan and China remain the largest holders of our treasury debt.
Yeah,
So
and that's where China's coming in. What I was talking about on the settlement, China is ferociously acquiring gold and other commodity assets because they particularly don't trust the dollar value. And so they don't want to lose out on that investment. And so from behind the scenes, China right now, in my world, we anticipate that they're probably holding some 30,000 tons of gold, more than the IMF, Europe, United States combined. Everything that's mined in China stays in China. I knew one of my refiners was sending 70 tons of gold a week over to Hong Kong. Anything Hong Kong goes to China. They're using it as just an insurance policy against the dollar itself, and to back up the Shanghai exchange as they enter into these trade agreements with not just BRICS, but all the other people in the Indo-Asian Rim.
Terry, I'm curious. I wanted to call you on this, and I didn't realize the next time we speak would be actually on a recorded podcast. So you're on tape when I ask you this.
Okay.
What's your whole view on the Fort Knox and finding the gold in Fort Knox?
The
Like,
gold is there. My guess really is, I do believe it is there. But here's the problem, and this is where they're lying to us. The gold is definitely there. It always has been for the most part. But the problem is they have probably leased out for every ounce of gold. There's probably 5 to 10 actual owners of it. So
mm,
what they did is they would lease out gold to, let's say, a hedge fund. They'll lease it out at a certain rate. They take that money and then put it into the markets and leverage it. The biggest problem we have is we were leasing out our gold. So we have gold, but it's who owns it, because on contract it's been leased out, and they're trying to deny that it's not leased out. We know it is because we've seen the documents. So the problem is how many people own every ounce. And that's why you saw, if you go look on charts, you'll see that there was a ferocious effort to import a lot of gold into the system. So if you look at the COMEX, you'll see a big spike in gold import. They're trying to cover the rear end because they know the leasing's taking place. And if people start going for demand on that, they're going to have to, pony up. So they're bringing in a lot of gold, and they were trying to say it was for tariff reasons. That just was the cover. But Trump knows it. So when Trump and Elon said, we need to audit the gold, that was kind of like code word. And then Besant said something too. But if you notice, it's all been shut down. and they're
Yes.
not talking about it anymore. And my guess is they don't want anybody aware until the time comes next summer when they introduce the new 50-year gold-backed treasury note. So there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes, but Carlos, I do really believe the gold is there. We've always had it, but I do know that it's been leased out. So it's not about the physical per se. It's really about who really owns it.
Really owns it. Yeah.
And we're
That's
kind of broke as a nation when it comes to that. And that's probably why the
sure.
BLM is scrambling through public lands looking for gold veins. They do need more. They know China's holding over 30,000 tons of gold, and they have more than the IMF, Europe, and the United States combined. And if they ever came out and said, our settlement currency is more trustworthy, go through the Shanghai because we have more gold than everyone, I think that'll really shake the world to the core. So I can see America continue to try to accumulate. I think our official numbers will change drastically in the future. It's just a matter of time, but they don't want anyone knowing it because they need the gold for themselves. So they sure don't want you buying it.
No, heck no. And that is that brings up a good point is that guys, Terry is one of the best in this space. Uh and it's very important to make sure that when you're buying precious metals actually delivered to your home, that you can deal with a business or a financial company that can actually cater to your needs. And you can dollar cost average into a commodity like precious metals. I think you offer palladium, silver, gold, and
Yeah,
what?
rhodium, platinum, it's a, and then the thing is, Carlos, that's so important is this is just a time and season as we're going through this fourth turning and we're going into a new financial system. What you do is you protect assets in a certain percentage, like you have in models with physical gold, silver, and such. But then after you make those profits, you then come back, take that back, and put it back into your system because by then we'll have a new playing field, you could say, in the marketplace. And so you take your profits out of the commodities when this whole thing works its way through. And then you go right back into the systems with Carlos with the rest of your money that's there. And I think you'll find that's just a good hedge because at least you're protected with some physical outside of the paper system, which the great taking is still legitimate. That's why I like the contract law stuff you do, of course, cash value stuff, because that's the only other place where you can really truly be protected.
Yeah, it's important to have, I feel like, a great balance. I mean, because the money in your bank has already been CBDC'd. I don't care what
Yeah.
Larry Fink says. The tokenization has happened. If you look into like V2 and like the virtual reality world, there's already digital real estate that you can't even get anymore.
Mm.
So they're building a whole world virtually in every sector, every type of ecosystem that you can possibly imagine on or offline. They're building a whole ecosystem so that we all can be forced into this virtual reality and transhumanism basically in the future.
Yeah.
And this is unfortunately we're seeing it little by little, poco a poco, cada dia, little by little every day. And it's sad. And one of the ways that you can protect yourself is getting you some physical gold, physical silver, have it mailed to you, and also having a good portion of your retirement in contract law as well, because the government cannot take anything that's associated with your life, and they sure as heck can't take anything that's not in a bank account.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If it's in the bank account, you just got to read commercial code 5 and 6. It's
Yep,
legit. That does not belong to you. You're an unsecured creditor. And
correct.
I got FDIC. Yeah, well, you have to read the fine print. And this is not hype. And that's what I love about with you, Carlos, too, is we're both just on fire spiritually. We're just trying to tell people, here's what's going on. And this isn't about fear because the Lord said, I did not give you a spirit of fear, but of
But of course,
power. That's dunamis power, supernatural miracle power, love, and a sound mind. We just need to use discernment to
yep.
properly position ourselves so we can then be there for the kingdom in the future instead of getting our assets taken.
Amen, brother. Well, where can they contact your office? I'm pretty sure You may not pick up the phone, but somebody in your awesome firm will. Where can they contact you? Where can they find you, Terry?
Yeah.
Any shows coming up? Any books you've written? Let us know. What's the update on Mr. Terry Sacka?
Yeah, I don't do, I give you a lot of kudo, man, for doing podcasts as much as you do. It's very difficult work to do. But I do, still my podcast, which is Rigged Against You, at YouTube and Rumble. I don't do them very often. So I'd say subscribe, because I may drop one a week, sometimes one every 2 weeks. But when I drop, it's pretty pertinent information. But otherwise, they can go to cornerstoneassetmetals.com, register for information, talk to someone. And if you've got a complicated scenario, by all means, I will talk to you personally. I don't mind. I do handle, because I had the financial licenses, I do handle complicated scenarios to just comfort people through the process. But we have a phenomenal team. Most of us went to Bible school together. So we're a pretty solid group. You just go to the website, register, get the free wealth guide. That just kind of explains what's going on with China and what's happening around the world. If anything, it gives you another kind of perspective of what's taking place, because, Carlos, you're focused in such a strategic way into your charts and into your systems, which they're very good systems. And then I'm kind of bouncing around on the outside here, with the dynamics of the macro, where here's what the world is doing, here's what China is doing, and we don't know exactly how this is playing out, but we're pretty darn certain a lot of the stuff I'm sharing is going to be real close to the chest. And so the exciting part is, if we're properly positioned, we in the kingdom will prevail. But if we're not, there is a chance that a lot of people could lose assets if they're in the wrong place.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And so when someone actually calls us, our firm, and they say, "Hey, can we invest in some type of precious metals?" I always recommend Terry, where my office actually sends an email or contacts his office. And if you're looking for an advisor and precious metal combo, this is a great team. All you got to do is give us a call, 813-448-3446. We're always referring clients to each other. We understand not to step on anyone's toes. We just want to help the client, and obviously we get paid a small concession for taking care of you, and it supports our podcast. It supports CWM and all of our onboarding efforts with other ministries that we support. But all you got to do, guys, is, if you're interested, and maybe you have a gold IRA that you bought with some other companies like Goldco or Birch Gold or whoever, and you just want to get clarity on the fees on exiting, then I would call Terry.
Hey, Carlos, that's a good point, by the way. So many of these gold companies, not only do they charge exorbitant amount to buy, when you sell back to them, I've heard 30-40% premiums on selling back. If it's anything more than 10%, there's a big problem, So you definitely, even if you bought from the big gold companies and you want to get out, I wouldn't be selling it back to them. Give us a call. We'll give you a fair shot and a fair price, and we'll take care of you. It's not a problem. We're working directly with the refineries in the mints, so we have direct contact. But just stay away from the big guys, because they're there to do is take all the money they can from you.
I like to say, if you got that referral from a podcaster or Fox News, chances are they're probably charging you 40-50% exit sales charges to
Oh,
sell.
easy. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why they're able to sponsor all these people. They're offering $1 million here and there. Where do you think they're getting that money from? Or when they say, I'm giving you 10,000 free silver, well, I'm telling you, nothing is free and you're paying for it. But what I've learned they're doing, Carlos, they started changing slightly in tactic, doing bait and switch, where 30% of what they sell you is actually a normal price, maybe a price that we would be selling at. But then the other 70% is sold in collectible, numismatic, weird increments. They have a really cool story. And those premiums can be 60, 70, 90% when they shouldn't even be close to that. And so they're pretty good at the way they trick people. If you know me, Carlos, it's infuriated me just because, I want to keep every Christian away from that kind of vampires as possible. Because every ounce in the hands of people, if that's the route they take, they should be getting every ounce they can, because it's all here to further the kingdom, and we need to preserve our assets to do that. And then when this stuff goes down, after these years play out, and you make your profits in gold and silver, I would be recommending you get right back over to Carlos, and then take those additional monies and stick it into a sound system for the future. I know I'm working with, one of your clients now. He's getting older, and he said, it's time to sell all this gold off. I just don't want to think anymore. And then he's coming in to just set up with you so he can get himself. I think it was an annuity type of thing where he
Sure.
just has a certain guaranteed income, and he's just older. He doesn't want to think about it anymore. And I really respect that. That's how you want to do it as you get to your ages. You make your money, but then get back into a solid sound system or contract law that can be protected.
Yeah, at some point you got to hit the preservation button and
Yeah,
income tax button, and just kind of ride in the right lane with the top down, listening to some oldies, and not worried about speed bumps and on cruise control.
that's for
So
sure.
that is an aim for every American, hopefully. And yeah, I love this conversation, especially with all the snakes that are out there, because most of these gold dealers, Terry, they don't have a financial background. Most of these podcasters that are selling fear, they all of a sudden now they want to sell silver and gold because it pays them a huge commission. And and unfortunately it comes out of the backs of the hardworking Americans because they're not getting close to spot. Look, if you charge anything up to 10%, that is fair. You deserve a right to earn a living. And that's all we're saying here is that Terry is completely fair. Probably one of the best. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but he's beaten everybody's prices I've compared to. I I've done business with Genesis. I've done business. Well, they tried to do business with Goldco, and I laughed at them. I've done businesses with other gold dealers. No one has come to fruition like Terry has. Can connect spiritually, not just emotionally, but spiritually and financially, and that is huge. I preach this with our current listeners: is that you have to have an advisor that you agree with academically, politically, spiritually, now medically, and it actually creates an environment of peace. And so
Yes.
what we want is we want peace, we want sound mind, and we want
And it's
power.
staying in the same lane with one another. I'm with you, Carlos. It is the most of these guys. They're just real slick salespeople. I came from 5 financial licenses. I'm more accredited than a lot of financial advisors, and yet I'm in this lane because God made it very clear to me: get my people ready for what is coming, and I'm on His mission clock. But beyond that, these other companies are just looking to take money, and this is not the time to do that. We need to have discernment. We need to stay in a brotherhood lane. We need to look after one another because that God gives you and I wisdom and understanding to read between the lines, to see what's coming, so we can guide that in those in the kingdom. That's our job. You and I have been given a mission, and I think we're held to a responsibility to do the best we can to help those people protect and preserve what God has given them.
Yeah, amen, brother. Well, it's been a pleasure, Terry. Just real quick, go ahead and say your site so we can run it on a banner here for Mike to edit it in.
Oh yeah, sure. It's cornerstoneassetmetals.com. And you can always go to Rigged Against You for the podcast. I don't do too many, but when I do it, it's going to be really detailed information. And if anything, it'll be on the outskirts of what the mainstream's trying to tell you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you guys heard it from the horse's mouth. Thanks, Terry. We appreciate you. We'll go ahead and continue to recommend you guys as they call us for a safe haven. And more importantly, like I've been recommending Terry for those of you that don't know, is we've actually done a lot of business with Terry for people that have bought gold IRAs and to pretty much help the mess that they're in. And we continue to recommend Terry because he's helped a lot of our clients get out of these high sales charge scenarios that are not really good for you and detrimental for your retirement because gold and silver is going up, but we also want to be prudent about it and not make decisions on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Well, Terry, I appreciate your time, brother, and we will be talking soon. Any last minute words?
Nah, just stay in the lane, keep your discernment going, and let the fire of the Holy Spirit touch your wisdom and understanding. That's all I can say. Enjoy your time up there with the family too, Carlos. It was nice talking to you.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.